Have you ever walked into a room and felt everything shift, even before you said a single word? People straighten up, conversations pause, and suddenly you're either admired or avoided, but never ignored. Why does that happen? What is it about your presence that stirs the air, triggers reactions, and exposes things people never intended to reveal? This video isn't just content, it's a mirror, a reflection of who you are beneath the surface. If you've ever felt like you were too intense, too emotional, or too real for a world addicted to small talk and shallow masks, then this was made for you. Because the truth is, your energy is not ordinary, it's electric, disruptive, divine. And in this video, we're going to uncover 13 undeniable signs that prove you weren't born to blend in. You were born to shake things up. You'll discover why your silence is more powerful than someone else's voice, why animals and children are drawn to you, why fake people fall away, and why that's a gift, not a curse. If you've ever questioned your energy, your truth, your presence, watch this video until the end. What you hear may not just explain your experience. It might finally help you embrace it. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated on all our latest content. Chapter 1. Your presence is loud, even in silence. Have you ever stepped into a room and felt the atmosphere shift instantly and without explanation? No one speaks. No one announces your arrival. And yet, something in the air tightens. Conversations slow. Heads turn. Eyes find you. Not because you're dressed to impress. Not because of fame, wealth, or social standing, but because your energy, raw, real, and undeniable, entered before you did. That, right there, is presence. It's not something you can fake. It's not something you can buy or build through popularity or power. It's the unspoken truth of who you are. It's the invisible weight of your soul showing up before your body ever says a word. When your spirit is aligned, when your energy is clean, grounded, and fully authentic, your silence carries more volume than a crowd screaming for attention. You don't need to prove yourself. You don't need to talk to anyone. People feel you. They sense something different, something that doesn't require validation, something that just is. And here's the truth. That kind of presence, it lingers. They may never remember your name, but they will never forget how your energy made them feel calm, shaken, powerful, intimidated, or suddenly vulnerable in a way they didn't expect. Why? Because when you walk into a space as your whole self, without apology, without performance, you disrupt the norm. And people remember the ones who awaken something deep inside them. You challenge what's fake simply by being real. This happens because your psyche, your vibration, your very essence enters long before your footsteps hit the floor. Your aura doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for approval. It whispers with steady certainty, "I'm not here to perform. I'm here to be real." That truth? It is rare. It is bold. It is sacred. And in a world obsessed with filters, noise, and shallow connections, someone like you is unforgettable, not because you're loud, but because you're aligned. And alignment is magnetic. It's powerful. It's what gives you the kind of presence that pierces through facades and cuts through superficial energy like a blade of light. So hear me when I say this, you don't need to be loud to be seen. You don't have to force your way into a room. Your silence already speaks. Your energy already commands. Your truth already moves people, even when they don't know why. That's presence. And that is what makes you unshakable. Chapter 2. You trigger shadows in others. Have you ever noticed how some people seem instantly drawn to you, captivated, even while others appear strangely unsettled, distant, or defensive, even when you haven't said a word? It's confusing at first. You wonder, did I do something wrong? But deep down, you know you haven't. You were just being yourself. Here's the truth. And yes, it might shake you a little. You're not the problem. You're the mirror. You're not doing anything wrong. You're doing something most people don't dare to do. In today's world, you're being real. Believe it or not, that alone is revolutionary. You see, when you walk into a space with clarity in your gaze, peace in your heart, and a spirit that doesn't bend for approval, your very presence becomes a kind of reflection. And for those around you, that reflection can be deeply uncomfortable because your energy doesn't just walk in, it reveals. Your honesty is disarming. Your confidence is unsettling. Your unapologetic truth threatens the fragile masks people have spent years, sometimes decades, carefully constructing just to survive. They look at you and see something they once silenced in themselves, something they buried, something they've worked so hard to forget. And yet, in your presence, it stirs. You didn't try to provoke them. You weren't seeking conflict. You weren't even trying to be noticed. But your light, it touched their shadow, and shadows don't like being exposed. This world is addicted to appearances, to filters, to fake smiles, to carefully edited personas. So when someone like you shows up raw, awake, and honest, it can feel like a quiet earthquake beneath their carefully built foundation. Carl Jung said it best. The shadow is the part of ourselves we reject, suppress, and bury deep. But here's where it gets powerful. Without even meaning to, you bring that shadow into the light. Not through confrontation, not through criticism, just by showing up as you whole, grounded, vulnerable, and beautifully unfiltered. You speak with conviction because you've done the hard, soul-deep work to heal. You walk with intention because you've discovered meaning in your journey. You shine not to outshine others, but because you finally stop dimming your light to make others comfortable. And when someone who hasn't done that work comes near you, they feel the contrast. They feel the emotional distance between your self-awareness and their avoidance. And that's when the projections begin. Suddenly, you're too intense, too confident, too direct, or too much. But let's call it what it is. I'm not ready to face my own shadow, and you make it impossible to ignore. It's not about you, it's about what your presence brings out in them. So please, don't shrink. Don't dilute your light for the comfort of others. You are not here to cushion their unhealed wounds. You are here to remind them that healing is possible. And yes, your light will naturally illuminate the broken places in others. But that's not your burden. That's their invitation to grow. Let them misinterpret you. Let them project. Let them twist your essence into something they can more easily digest. You weren't born to be palatable. You were born to be powerful. And in this lifetime, your calling isn't to protect people from their shadows. It's to continue shining boldly, beautifully, so they might finally find the courage to face their own. Your presence is not noise. It is a signal, a wake-up call. And only the ones who are ready to wake up will truly understand the language you speak, the language of truth, healing, and soul-deep authenticity. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Chapter 3, Animals, Children, and Nature Gravitate Toward You. Have you ever paused to notice how the world responds to you when no one else seems to be paying attention? Maybe it was a stray cat that curled up beside your feet, without hesitation, as if it had known your soul forever. Or a toddler who, in the middle of a crowded street, locked eyes with you and smiled with the purest kind of joy. Maybe it was the breeze, how it seemed to soften, how the rustling leaves quieted, how even the wind felt like it was embracing you. It's not random. It's not your imagination. It's energy. Your energy. Unlike people who often see through the lens of appearance, status, or assumptions, animals, children, and the natural world don't play those games. They don't respond to your resume. They don't care about your reputation. They don't read your words. They read your vibration. And when your energy is unmasked, honest, and full of soul, they feel it. They're drawn to it. They know when a presence is safe. when a spirit is calm, when a heart is kind. You see, animals don't wait for evidence. They just know. Children don't question credentials. They just feel, and nature, it doesn't seek to be entertained. It simply aligns with those who carry stillness within them. And that's who you are. Your aura doesn't beg for attention. It doesn't put on a show. It doesn't try to be anything. It's not. It simply exists quietly, honestly, fully. You radiate something most people have forgotten how to recognize: truth. And truth, especially the kind that isn't shouted or polished, becomes the most powerful language on earth. We live in a noisy world, one that's obsessed with performance, with validation, with being seen, a world full of empty laughter, tired masks, and artificial connection. But when you enter a space with your grounded, gentle energy, you change the frequency. Without even trying, you become a sanctuary, a moment of peace, a place where pretending can finally stop. That's why the animals stay close. That's why the children reach out. That's why the trees seem to hush and lean in when you're near. Because you're not here to dominate. You're not here to manipulate. You're not here to take up space with noise. You're here to simply be, and in that being, there is profound harmony. In a society addicted to stimulation, you are still. In a culture obsessed with pretense, you are authentic. In a crowded field of chaos, you are alignment, and the natural world feels that. It honors that. It bows to it. So never overlook the way the quiet parts of the world respond to you. Never ignore the way a dog lies peacefully by your feet, the way a child lights up in your presence, or how the rain seems to tap more softly on the window when you're deep in thought. These are not coincidences. These are sacred affirmations that the essence you carry is real, rare, and deeply in tune with life. You are not disconnected. You are not lost. You are grounded. You are aligned. You are real. And the purest parts of this world, they see you. They trust you. They gravitate toward you, because in a world starving for truth, you are it. Chapter 4. You intimidate without trying. You don't walk into a room to prove anything. You're not flashy. You're not loud. You're not there to outshine or impress. You don't need applause to feel valid. You simply walk in with calm eyes, steady breath, grounded steps, and an energy that speaks louder than any voice in the room ever could. And yet, without uttering a single word, the entire room shifts. Suddenly, people sit up straighter. Their voices rise just a little too high. They start over-explaining, overcompensating, and laughing just a little too hard. You feel the nervousness, the unease, the way the energy trembles beneath their polished surfaces. It's strange, isn't it? You didn't do anything but be yourself. Still, their reaction is unmistakable. Here's why, in a world conditioned to reward volume and performance, your stillness is a power move. In a culture that glorifies masks and appearances, your raw authenticity becomes a quiet rebellion. You're not trying to be intimidating. That's never your aim. You don't puff up your chest or seek to dominate the space. But what you don't do, hide, shrink, pretend, is what shakes people to their core. Because when someone hasn't made peace with who they are, your presence becomes a confrontation. Not because you're judging them, but because you remind them, without saying a word, of the work they've avoided. You become a living contradiction to everything they've built around avoidance. And so, they cover it up. They joke too much. They smile too wide. They fill the silence like it's a fire they can't stand to sit in. But deep down, they feel the tension. They know you see it. They know you see them. Your stillness says, "I've done the work." Your energy whispers, "I know who I am." And for someone who hasn't even started their healing journey, that kind of grounded clarity doesn't feel like peace. It feels like pressure, like exposure, like a quiet storm moving through the room, unraveling everything that was carefully held together by performance and pretense. But please, let this truth sink in. You are not the villain in their story. You're not the problem. You're the mirror. You reflect what they've buried, what they avoid, what they fear. And while that may make them uncomfortable, it also calls them higher, because your presence doesn't just rattle cages, it offers freedom. You don't have to change. You don't have to soften who you are or water down your truth to fit into fragile comfort zones. Your existence is not an attack. It's a standard, and only those brave enough to grow will recognize that. Only those willing to rise will understand you. So keep walking into rooms with your calm. Keep entering with quiet dignity. Keep showing up exactly as you are, because the right ones won't see your stillness as a threat. They'll see it as a compass pointing them back to themselves. The storm they feel, it's not you. It's what you awaken within. And that's not something to apologize for. It's something to be proud of. Chapter 5, you shift the whole room's energy. Most of the time, you don't even notice it. You're not trying to take up space. You're not trying to lead the room. You're simply being calm, grounded, present. No performance, no agenda. And yet, something shifts the very moment you step into the space. The air changes. It's subtle but undeniable. Conversations pause, even if just for a breath. Laughter stutters. Eyes flicker your way. People adjust themselves, straighten their posture, change their tone, recalibrate without even realizing why. And you're left wondering, did I do something? Did I say something? But the truth is, you didn't walk in. Your frequency did. This isn't dominance. This isn't the kind of power that demands attention with volume or charisma. No, what you carry is deeper, older, wiser. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons helpful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. It's vibrational presence. It's not about what you say. It's not about what you do. It's about what you are. You are a walking field of truth, a living embodiment of alignment, a mirror that reflects things people didn't even know were hiding within them. And here's the magic. You don't need the spotlight. You don't need permission, because your aura speaks before you ever say a word, and the world listens even when it doesn't understand why. You carry something ancient, something timeless, something sacred. Your energy holds codes, echoes, and whispers from lineages long forgotten. Archetypes of strength, symbols of depth, the essence of generations who endured, transformed, and passed their truth through you like fire in the blood. And when you walk in, that memory, that soul imprint, touches the room. People can't explain it, but they feel it. Deep in their bones, you awaken something, a stirring, a spiritual vibration that disrupts the shallow flow of everyday life. It's ancestral, it's emotional, it's real. You walk in like a breeze, soft and unassuming, but you shift the space like a quiet storm. Not loud, not dramatic, but so undeniably felt. That's not a coincidence. That's not charisma. That's alignment. When your soul is rooted in truth, when your energy isn't fragmented or performing, your mere presence begins to rearrange anything around you that isn't grounded. That isn't honest. That isn't real. You don't force change. You are the change. People suddenly feel seen, truly seen. And sometimes they aren't ready for that. Some feel safe. Others feel naked. Some are drawn closer. Others keep their distance, unsure of why your presence shakes them to the core. Because you're not just a person. You're a portal, a mirror, a reminder. Your energy reminds them of something they forgot, or maybe something they're still avoiding. And energy never lies. It doesn't care about titles. It doesn't play along with masks. It reacts to truth every single time. So, if you've ever found yourself wondering why people act strangely around you, why they stare, fumble, or suddenly fall quiet. It's not that you've disturbed the room. You've revealed what was already there. You didn't create the discomfort. You just illuminated the dissonance, because that's what your soul does. It shifts frequencies. It awakens truths. It brings the unseen to the surface. And the most profound part? It's not something you try to do. It's not something you perform. It's something you are. Chapter 6. You read people without words. You walk into a room and without warning something hits you. It's not what anyone says. It's not the way they're smiling or laughing or pretending everything is okay. On the surface, it all looks normal. But inside, something is off. There's a subtle tension in the air, a quiet dissonance beneath the laughter, a feeling that someone's words are dressed up, but their energy, it's telling a different story. And no, you're not being paranoid. You're not dramatic. You're not overthinking. You're just aware, deeply, profoundly aware. You don't need someone to confess their pain. You don't need an explanation to feel the truth, because your spirit-tuned, sensitive, refined through your journey picks up the signals most people ignore. You notice the slight slump in someone's shoulders when they say, "I'm fine." You catch the flicker of sadness in their eyes right after a forced laugh. You feel the edge in a compliment that wasn't quite clean. And you hear the words they don't say louder than the ones they do. Carl Jung called it symbolic perception, a deep, intuitive intelligence that reads energy before it reads language. And that's exactly what you do. You read energy, you speak an invisible language, one made of posture, micro-expressions, and subtle emotional frequencies. And once your soul learns that language, you can't unhear it, you can't pretend not to feel it. You can't know what your body knows. And here's the thing, it's not magic. It's not some superhuman gift. It's the natural result of doing the inner work. Because when your aura becomes clear, your perception becomes sharp, your sensitivity becomes sacred. You start to see people not just as they want to be seen, but as they truly are. You begin to feel their emotional weather, not from their lips, but from their soul's whispers. You can feel the grief behind the grin, the jealousy behind the praise, the storm brewing behind a soft, "I'm okay." And this awareness, it sets you apart. It isolates you sometimes because you can't sit comfortably in surface-level conversation anymore. You can't fake interest in meaningless chatter. You crave depth. You crave truth. And shallow masks? They make your spirit itch. People might say, "You're too intense, too serious, too much." But what they're saying is, "You make it hard for me to keep pretending." You're not too much. You're just honest energetically. And that's a rarity in a world where almost everyone is trying to say the right thing instead of being real. So trust that awareness. Don't silence your intuition just because it makes others uncomfortable. You weren't meant to ignore what you feel. You weren't built to look away. You were designed to discern. Because while the world listens to words, you're listening to truth. While others hear voices, you feel vibrations. And in that sacred space, you don't just read people, you understand them, sometimes better than they understand themselves. Chapter 7, Small talk drains you. You smile. You nod. You even chuckle on cue and say things like, "Crazy weather today, huh?" You do all the things you're supposed to do to keep the peace, to fit in, to not seem too deep for the moment. But inside, you're drained. Not because you're shy, not because you don't like people, not because you're antisocial. It's because every meaningless word, every shallow exchange chips away at your soul like water dripping on stone. You can feel it in your body. The heaviness that sets in when you're stuck, talking about office drama, celebrity gossip. Whose kid won what? What someone's cat did this morning? And you try. You do! But something inside you just wilts, because your spirit wasn't built for that. Your energy wasn't wired for fluff. Your soul craves depth. Your presence calls for presence. You don't want to talk about people. You want to talk with people, real people, about things that matter, about their dreams, their wounds, their fears, their truths, their purpose. You want to know what keeps them up at night, what they long for but are too afraid to chase, what they've been hiding behind their smile, hoping someone might finally ask. Because you don't just want connection, you want communion. That's why small talk doesn't just bore you, it suffocates you. It feels like noise in your nervous system, static in your soul, a buzz that pulls you further and further from yourself until you start to feel emotionally numb, physically disconnected, and spiritually starved. You weren't made for surface. You were made for depth. You want conversations that open people. Conversations that peel back the layers and say, "Show me the real you, and I'll show you mine." You want to go beyond the mask, beyond the roles, into the raw, the beautiful, the human. Because that's where your energy flows. That's where your spirit feels free. That's where your aura expands, not shrinks. And yes, this makes you different. It makes you seem too intense for some, too serious, too heavy. But those are just the words of people who haven't yet discovered the courage it takes to be real. Because the ones who are truly awake, they feel your pull. They feel the way your soul leans in when theirs does. And when you find each other, those rare souls who speak your language without saying much, it feels like coming home. No pretending, no filters, just presence, just truth, just real. So no, you're not antisocial. You're not too much. You're not broken for craving depth in a shallow world. You are allergic to the fake. And that's not something to apologize for. It's something to honor. You weren't made to blend into background noise. You were made to echo the truth, to breathe life into the conversations no one else is brave enough to have. In a world starving for meaning, you are the soul that reminds people it still exists. Chapter 8, people project their darkness onto you. Your light doesn't scream. It doesn't demand. It doesn't enter the room with ego or the need to prove a point. It simply exists quiet, steady, rooted in truth. But somehow, just by being there, everything shifts. The atmosphere changes. The room gets quieter, tighter. People's tones soften or sharpen. Smiles become forced. Conversations turn cautious. And you're left wondering, sometimes with a lump in your chest, what did I do wrong? But here's the answer: nothing. You didn't hurt them. You didn't cross a line. You didn't say anything offensive. You simply showed up with clarity, and that disturbed the parts of them still living in fog. Because your energy, it doesn't just enter a space, it illuminates it. And not everyone is ready for that kind of light. Because light, real, radiant, unapologetic light, reveals what's hiding. You didn't ask to be the mirror, but you are. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons helpful, please comment on number 3 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. And when your presence reflects the parts of others, they've spent a lifetime avoiding the wounds, the lies, the buried truths, they react. Sometimes with silence, sometimes with sarcasm, sometimes with sudden, inexplicable resentment. They project what they cannot process. They might twist your words, doubt your intentions, mock your spirit, not because of who you are, but because of what you represent. Clarity in a world full of performance. You are a walking truth bomb. You challenge the act. You interrupt the illusion. You carry a frequency that can't be manipulated, and that terrifies those who survive by control. You don't play games. You don't wear masks. You don't pretend to be less than what you are. And that alone is deeply uncomfortable for people who do. They look into your eyes and feel exposed, because your gaze sees past the small talk, past the polish, past the "I'm fine." In your presence, the shadows they've suppressed start to squirm. The lies they've told themselves begin to unravel. And all of this without you saying a single word. That's why some pull away. And some, even more confusingly, draw near at first praising you, admiring you until they realize you won't shrink to fit the box. They tried to place you in. Then that admiration turns into quiet resentment because they can't manipulate your light. And when they can't control it, they fear it. But I need you to know this. With every fiber of your being, don't let it change you. Don't question your worth just because someone else couldn't face their reflection. Don't start doubting your energy because it revealed something they weren't ready to see. You are not responsible for their projections. You are only responsible for staying aligned with your truth. And yes, the brighter the flame, the sharper the shadows it casts. But that doesn't mean your flame should go dim. It means your light is working. It's waking people up. And sometimes, waking up doesn't look like gratitude. Sometimes, it looks like resistance, like rejection, like someone walking away not from you, but from themselves. Let them. You weren't sent here to be liked. You weren't born to be soft-spoken truth for fragile ears. You were born to be real. You were born to be a reminder that truth still exists, that light still burns, that it's possible to live without masks and games and shallow validation. So keep burning, keep shining, even if it makes them uncomfortable, especially if it makes them uncomfortable, because the ones who are ready, truly ready, will find their reflection in your fire and rise from it. Chapter 9. Your silence is louder than their noise. You don't raise your voice. You don't interrupt. You don't fight for space, attention, or control. Because you've come to understand something most people never do in this noisy world. Silence is power. And your silence? It roars. Not the kind of roar that needs volume or fury, but the kind that echoes quietly and deeply, unsettling what's false and amplifying what's real. You no longer need to argue to be heard. You no longer seek to explain yourself just to feel seen, because you found peace in your presence. You know who you are. You know what you carry. And that knowing, that still, grounded certainty, speaks louder than any voice in the room ever could. While the world scrambles for validation, likes, applause, approval, you sit in stillness, unshaken, unmoved, rooted in a truth that doesn't demand attention because it already is. And that silence, it says everything. It says, I'm not here to perform. I don't need to prove anything. I'm watching. I'm listening. And I see more than you realize. And that terrifies people, because silence, when it's anchored in self-awareness, is confrontational in its sacred way. Most people talk to cover their fear. They fill every pause with sound to avoid the weight of truth. They get louder when they feel insecure, hoping their volume will distract from the emptiness inside. But you don't need the noise. You've made peace with the quiet. You are quiet, and your silence isn't passive. It's potent. It holds space. It confronts without accusation. It reveals without saying a word. It becomes a mirror that reflects what others are trying to avoid themselves. And because of that, they'll often misread you. They'll assume you're arrogant, detached, and unbothered. They'll project discomfort onto you because your silence feels like a spotlight shining on everything they've tried to keep in the dark. But what they don't see is that you're not aloof. You're just attuned, tuned into a different frequency, a higher one, a quieter one, a wiser one. You don't need to shout because your presence is already spoken. You don't need to compete for attention because your energy already entered. You don't need to dominate because your depth has already anchored the room. Let others scramble to be the loudest voice. Let them chase visibility and validation. You've already become the deepest presence. And that's what makes you powerful. That's what makes you magnetic. That's what makes your silence shake people far more than any raised voice ever could. So stay quiet, not because you're afraid, but because you've mastered the art of restraint. Stay quiet, not because you lack words, but because you've learned that truth doesn't need a megaphone. It just needs presence. Because when your silence carries integrity, clarity, and truth, even the noisiest crowd eventually goes still. Not because you silenced them, but because your being did what their words never could revealed, what's real. Chapter 10. You attract real or repel fake instantly with you. There is no in-between. People either lean in or they turn and walk away. They either feel magnetically pulled into your presence or they feel strangely uncomfortable, unsure of why being near you feels like standing in front of a mirror they've been avoiding their entire lives. And the most beautiful part, you're not even trying. You're not performing. You're not adjusting yourself to be more acceptable. You're not begging to be liked or shape-shifting to earth-end connection. You simply exist raw, rooted, real. And that truth, that unapologetic authenticity, acts like a sacred filter. A natural frequency that calls in what's aligned and dissolves what isn't. You don't have to sort people. Your energy does it for you. Some people will meet you and feel something they haven't felt in years, maybe ever. A sense of being seen. Not the surface version of them, but their true self, the one they've kept tucked away beneath layers of armor, expectations, and past pain. Your presence doesn't judge. It doesn't demand. It simply whispers, "Come as you are, not as you're expected to be." If you are still watching this video and find these lessons helpful, please comment on number 4 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. And for some, that feels like oxygen, like home. But for others, it feels like exposure, because you're not fooled by the masks. You don't engage in shallow performance. You don't feed the illusion. You see through it, and they know you do, and that terrifies them. The version of themselves you reflect, the insecure one, the unhealed one, the manipulative one, the one beneath the curated identity, is the very part they've worked so hard to hide. And when your energy brushes against that truth, it feels like a quiet unraveling. You don't need to say a word. Your aura already said, no thanks. Not with hostility, not with judgment, but with energetic honesty. It simply doesn't match. And energy? Energy never lies. So while they might not understand why they suddenly feel uncomfortable around you, their soul knows. Their soul recognizes that you're someone who won't tolerate the fake, who won't entertain anything that feels forced, insincere, or manipulative, because you've worked too hard to protect your peace. You've healed too much to let chaos back in. You've fought too long to reclaim your truth, to now water it down for approval. So now, your energy says something clear. Only the true may enter. Not because you're better, not because you're cold, but because your soul no longer has space for what drains it. This discernment, it's not a weakness. It's your gift, your inner compass, your invisible shield. It protects you from betrayal. It saves you from wasting time on people who were never meant to stay. It draws in the rare souls who can meet you in the places you fought to reach the places. Most people are still afraid to go. So if someone fades away without warning, if someone pulls back or ghosts you or accuses you of being too much, let them. Don't chase. Don't question. It wasn't rejection. It was resonance, doing its sacred work. Because you were never here to be liked by everyone. You weren't made to please the crowd. You were made to be found by the real ones, the rare ones, the ones who feel your depth and don't run from it, the ones who speak the same unspoken language, the ones who recognize your truth because it's alive in them too. Let the rest fall away. You're not here to fit in. You're here to stand true. Chapter 11. You carry a warrior's calm. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to flash credentials or throw your weight around. You don't need to announce your strength. because the way you sit calm, composed, anchored says everything. Your silence doesn't shrink, it commands. Your stillness doesn't hide, it holds space. And you calm, it's not the kind that comes from an easy life. It's the kind forged in fire. You've been through storms that could have shattered you. You've walked alone in a night so heavy that your breath was the only sound you could hear. You've stared your demons in the face, not to run, not to fight, but to understand. You've tasted grief and fear. You've sat with shame. You've had your heart cracked open and your mind pulled apart. But you didn't collapse. You evolved. That's why your presence feels different. Why your energy can settle a room or stir it to the edge of its comfort. Not because you're trying to take up space, but because your peace has weight. You don't have to prove you're strong. You are strong because you've met the rawest, darkest, most uncertain parts of yourself and you didn't flinch. You met them with compassion, with grit, with faith, and you came back wiser. You've learned the art of inner warfare, the kind that doesn't leave bruises on the outside, but transforms you from within. You've died and been reborn, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and now you're calm. It's not quiet because it's empty. It's quiet because it's full of lessons, of scars, of sacred strength. People feel that. Some won't know how to name it, but they'll sense it. They'll look into your eyes and feel it instantly. This person has been through something. They'll listen more closely when you speak, because your words aren't noise. They carry weight. But not everyone will be able to sit in your calm, because most people are used to power that screams, not power that breathes. They only understand dominance, not depth. They've only ever seen strength that postures, not strength that radiates from stillness. So when they meet you, when they feel how unshakable you are, even in silence, they won't know how to respond. Some will respect you, others will fear you, but no one will forget you. Because a warrior's calm, it can't be faked. It can't be bought. It can only be earned through every battle you faced and quietly won. So never mistake your softness for weakness. Never let the world convince you that your restraint is a lack of power. Your softness is a sword wrapped in velvet. Your calm is a strategy. Your peace is the product of everything you've overcome in silence, when no one was clapping, when no one was watching. You don't need a weapon. You are the weapon, sharpened by pain, polished by wisdom, powered by truth. And you calm? It isn't the absence of war. It's the presence of someone who knows exactly who they are and no longer needs to fight to prove it. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons helpful, please comment on number 5 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Chapter 12, You Heal Without Trying. You don't walk into a room intending to fix anyone. You don't hand out advice like medicine. You don't try to play healer. But somehow, just by being yourself, people begin to breathe again. Their shoulders relax. Their tone softens. Their walls are lower. Because your presence doesn't demand. It invites. You don't need a title, a label, a therapist's license. Because when people are near you, something in them quietly whispers, "It's okay now. You can exhale. You're safe." And the wildest part? You're not even trying. You're just showing up with the energy you've earned, an energy shaped by your journey through darkness, healing, and self-discovery. Most people walk around every day carrying invisible wounds, smiles that hide fatigue, eyes that haven't truly rested in years, hearts that are aching with unspoken things. But when they enter your field, something changes. It's subtle, but sacred. Their grip loosens, their mask cracks, their guard lowers, and for the first time in a long time, they feel like they can just be. That's the healing you carry, not in your words, but in your frequency. You radiate stillness, depth, clarity, a truth that reaches people where logic and language never could. But here's what makes your presence truly profound. Your energy doesn't just soothe. It also awakens. You don't just comfort. You mirror. You reflect. You stir something that's been buried. You make people feel safe, yes. But you also make them feel seen. And when someone is deeply authentically seen, their illusions start to fall apart. The narratives they've been clinging to, the stories, the masks, the false personas, they can't breathe in the presence of your truth. You don't call people out. You simply exist in truth. And that alone shakes what's unhealed. And that can be terrifying, because healing isn't always soft. Sometimes it feels like being cracked wide open. Sometimes it feels like grief, or rage, or vulnerability they weren't ready for. So yes, some will thank you. Some will come back and tell you that you were the one who helped them remember who they were. But others will walk away. Not because you hurt them, but because their pain wasn't ready to be touched. But hear this, no one leaves your presence unchanged. Whether they stay or go, whether they thank you or resist you, your energy does something. Because your medicine isn't about fixing people. You weren't born to rescue them. You were born to remind them of the power that still lives within them. You were born to hold space for their truth, just by standing on your own. And that is the rarest healing of all. Chapter 13. You were born to disturb what's fake. You've felt it your whole life, that invisible tension. The unspoken stiffness in rooms where the smiles don't reach the eyes, where conversations skim the surface like a script, and everyone's wearing masks so tight they've forgotten their faces. And deep inside, you knew you didn't belong there. Not because you were broken, not because something was wrong with you, but because you were never meant to blend into a world built on pretending. You weren't made to nod along with lies. You weren't wired to keep silent just to keep the peace. You weren't designed to shrink your truth just so others could stay comfortable in their illusion. You were born to interrupt the pattern, to shake the system, to call the soul back from sleep. Even if that meant being the storm no one saw coming. Your presence is not loud, but it is disruptive. Not because you're trying to be dramatic, but because your truth exposes what's fake. Simply by existing, your aura doesn't just glow, it restructures. You don't just walk into a room, you rearrange it. The energy changes. People shift. Truth becomes harder to hide, because when you show up, something awakens. That's why some people are drawn to you instantly. They feel something real in you, and it stirs something buried in themselves. And others, they'll pull away. They won't even know why. They just know that something about you makes them feel seen. And that's terrifying when you've built your life trying to stay hidden. You make the fake feel exposed. You don't let masks rest easy. You don't let small talk pretend to be a connection. You don't need to call anyone out. You don't need to point fingers. You just are. And that's enough to disturb every illusion in the room, because you represent something rare, something wild, something raw and holy and untamable. And in a world addicted to control and conformity, real is dangerous. Your energy threatens what is comfortable but fake. It challenges what is polished but hollow. It stirs what has long been asleep. You weren't born to be neutral. You weren't sent here to nod politely while pretending everything is fine. You were born to be transformational. And transformation? It's never clean. It's never convenient. It's messy. It's disruptive. It's uncomfortable. But it's necessary. Because truth doesn't come to coddle lies. It comes to replace them. So stop apologizing for your edge. Stop softening your fire to keep fragile egos warm. Stop dimming your frequency just to keep others from trembling. You weren't meant to make peace with the fake. You were born to disturb it. Because every time your energy collides with illusion, truth wins. And the world, this beautiful, aching, hungry world, does need more masks. It needs more of you. More souls who refuse to play dead. More voices that speak without saying a word. More presence that cracks through the performance and says, "Wake up, come home to who you are." So, if your light makes others uncomfortable, let it. If your truth stirs the room, good. If your presence unsettles what isn't aligned, that's what it's supposed to do, because you weren't born to entertain. You weren't born to blend. You were born to burn, to break through, to bring people back to what's real. And in a world so starved for it, that makes you the rarest kind of medicine. Thank you so much for watching this video. Now that you've absorbed all of these powerful lessons, I'd love to hear from you. What did you learn today that resonates with you the most? Is there one thing that stood out that you're planning to practice in your life starting now? Drop your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. If you feel inspired, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember to hit the notification bell so you never miss an empowering message. Let's continue this journey of self-discovery and transformation together. Thank you for being a part of it. Keep shining your light.